not 3 photos, hundreds. If you want it approved, hundreds. Bury them with it. Wear them down, right? Like every job is a crime scene that must be investigated. Seriously. And when you start thinking about it like that, nobody's going to be more detailed than you. But the idea here is that we're going to prove it. We're going to hash this out. We're going to show them with documentation that it's necessary. Does that mean they're going to agree with us? No, right? Or anything else that they don't agree with us. Now comes the C bucket. The C bucket is for all the items that they don't agree to right now. And I mean all the items, okay? So now, let's say you've got drip edge is required, to be replaced. It's part of the roof. And the gutters are nailed directly through the drip edge. So you can't take off the drip edge and replace it unless you also take off the gutters and detach, at the very least, detach and reset them, right? This is easy, this isn't obvious. We take photos, this should be very self-evident, you know what I mean? But I'm just using it as an example. We do that, we have it on the estimate, we're talking about it on the phone with an adjuster, for example. Adjuster asks us why it's there, we go through it, we explain it to them, we direct them to photos, we direct them to codes, whatever it is, and they're like, yeah, I understand, I don't see it. Or we don't pay for it. Right? It's not included on the policy. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Adjuster. My job, what I've been hired to do, is to perform all repairs that have been prescribed by you. Okay? Now, based on my experience, I don't see how it's going to be possible to carry out your prescription. However, I'm willing to give it a try. Okay? So I'm willing to try it your way, all right? Provided that you're willing to revisit this issue when it's no longer a hypothetical and we're there actually swinging hammers. Fair enough? Mr. Adjuster, is that fair enough?
It depends.
Depends, huh? Okay. Well, I'll just tell you this. What can the adjuster say to that? Right? What can they say to that? Neither one of us can prove it now. Don't need to. It's impossible to. It's a hypothetical, theoretical, right? So, Mr. Adjuster, I don't think it's possible, but I'm willing to give it an old college try. You know what I mean? I'm willing to try to carry out your prescription until I can't. But if I can't, I expect you to revisit this with me at that time. Fair enough? Any adjuster, yeah, absolutely. They are trained to deal with supplemental items as they come up. Are they not? Like, that's part of insurance restoration. So there's no adjuster that's ever going to tell you, no, we're not going to review it ever. Never, never, never. It's never going to be approved. And I don't care what item we're talking about here. Okay? Now, I have had adjusters tell me, yeah, fair enough, but we're not going to pay for it then either. You know what I mean? We're not going to pay for it then either. They might say that, okay? But one of the biggest reasons why it works is because, again, they're lazy. So it's somebody else's problem later. They don't care. And if it's one of those situations where you have to deal with the same adjuster, then, they maybe do care, but it's a problem for a different day. Right? They're putting it off for later, and they're trained, that's how they have to do it, to deal with items as they come up, okay? But this gives us a unique opportunity of getting it on the record ahead of time, right? And so you've probably seen where you come back later and you're like, hey, I need this to be paid for, and they're like, no, we're not paying for that. You agreed to that at the inspection. You agreed to whatever. Again, we didn't agree to anything, ever. Because I never agree to anything, right? Back to that whole thing where the adjuster revises his estimate, adds a bunch of money to it, not all the way up to where your estimate was, but he's like, I sent you my estimate, do you like it? You try to argue with him a little bit, try to get him to add more to it. And he's like, okay, well, if you agree to my estimate, let me know, I'll go ahead and send payment. That's one of their tricks. They try to hold the money over your head because they know you need the money now, right? But You just simply say, oh, I can't agree to anything, right? Like, we have to run this through our team and vet it and go through our estimating staff and plan the job and all of that. But if anything comes up where it's not enough or whatever, we'll let you know later. Go ahead and send the money now. Send the money, send the money, send the money. I mean, I say this all the time. Send the money, send the money. If anything comes up with your estimate, we'll let you know later. And guess what we'll do? We'll file a supplement. And they're like, huh, good idea. I mean, honestly, because you're letting the adjuster off the hook. And guess what? If they can make payment now, guess who gets paid? The adjuster gets paid. So make it easy for them, right? And so, yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question on the adjusters getting paid? So I see how you're kind of gaining their trust or getting them on your side, and hey, I understand you need to get on with the next claim and get you paid. How does that work? Like, for the field adjuster, they get paid separately or differently than the side adjuster?
Maybe. So this is the thing. I mean, this is very general speaking. I'm speaking in very general terms here.
I know every one of them.
They are. Because you have like independent adjusters, they may be out there on State Farm, but they could be working for like 5 or 6 different companies. Who knows, you know?
Sure.
And they all have different ways of doing things. But you may get with the former adjuster up here and ask him some of the ways that he's been paid. You know, like he's like, no, don't do that. Huh?
Usually under the table.
Under the table. Now look, so let's follow through with this, okay? I don't want to let that dangle off, because the C bucket is where all the power is at, man. That's where the real power is. And, you know, you just have to do it to understand it. I mean, this is based on 20 years of experience, so my methods have not always been the same. They have to change with the times. And right now in 2019, this is what I believe is the best and most effective way to win in the quickest time frame, okay? Is let's go through the motions, all right? What is it that they won't approve? So somebody said, we were talking about the waste factor, or the waste ridge starter. It's a very common issue, right? Like, oh, we don't pay. You have 15% waste on there. We don't pay that. We pay 5% on gables and 10 on hips. Do you? I mean, let's just back up. Let me also say this. There's this other school of thought where the roof should be this much per square. All right? You hear that? Like, certain people charge this much per square for their roofing. Okay? Or the insurance company might just want to pay all-inclusive this much per square, okay? Now, let me just tell you guys, that method, I told you I wasn't going to tell you what's wrong and what's not. I'm going to tell you that's wrong, okay? Let me explain. Roof A, so I don't give a crap how much the roof prices are here in Denver or in Dallas or anywhere in the country. I write estimates all the time, and I never even stop to think how much it is per square. I don't care how much the baseboard is per linear feet. That never occurs to me. You know, it's like I never think in terms of dollar amounts. It's just the items, okay? And so if you take roof A and roof B, both of them 30 squares exactly. Does that mean they're both exactly the same price? We could charge $240 a square or $300 or $400 a square? We cannot. We cannot, guys, because roof A has 288 linear feet of drip edge. Roof B only has 124 linear feet of drip edge. Roof A is a 912 pitch. Roof B is a walkable 612 pitch, right? Roof A has 12 pipe jacks. Roof B has 4. Roof A has 88 linear feet of valley metal. Roof B doesn't have any valley metal. Roof A has a chimney. Roof B doesn't have a chimney. Roof A has a chimney cap. Roof B, I said, doesn't have a chimney. You know what I mean? We can keep going here. Roof A has cornice gable returns. This one doesn't have any, and cornice strips, right? And special access charges. And all these different things, 2-story, skylights. How in the world can we say that a roof should be this much per square? We cannot do that. You see what I mean? So I would just encourage you not to do it. Now, there's a benefit in that your labor, typically, if you're using guys that pay or that like charge by the square, usually they're going to do everything inclusive. It's the weirdest thing. You know, when I was a contractor, I was like, but are you going to take off the other stuff too? Yeah, all that's included, boss. Oh, okay. Well, let me pay you an extra $10 so I don't lose you. You know, like, so in other words, you can have a set price for your labor that you pay out, but you can literally charge for every last item on the roof with the insurance companies. Okay? So, any of these items, the waste factor, I'm going to probably do the ridge, the starter, and 15% waste, or maybe 18% waste, or maybe 22% waste. In other words, the insurance companies can't just say it's 5% on a gable and 10. What I believe that it should actually be, guys, is what it actually takes. Isn't that what they owe for in the concept of insurance? This is replacement cost value we're talking about. So they owe for what's actually incurred, okay? So I don't get caught up in these arguments with these adjusters about waste factors and stuff. There's things you can do. So on your estimate, make your best case on your documentation for why it's there. So like roofing manufacturer specifications will require starter, ridge, put that in there, okay? But do you really know, and we were talking about this during the break, anybody here know what it's actually going to take? No, on any roof. I don't. We don't really know the exact amount of waste we're going to need, do we? Right? If you look on Eagle View, there's a breakdown on the waste factor page. There's a breakdown that'll help a lot with that to back up your case as to why you think there has to be this much of a waste factor on this particular roof. Okay? There's waste calculators out there that you can use. Some of you guys are way smarter than me for what it takes when you're going up the side of the hip and all that other stuff, right? How many cuts it takes. So I just think documentation is everything. Make your best case. Try to get them to agree to it on the front end. But wherever, if they say to you, we're not paying for that, get them to pay for as much as they can, but then later on, we're getting it paid for. Like, we're going to get them to pay for exactly what it took at the end. Okay? Because that's what they owe for. So sometimes I was telling them, I've even sent in ABC supply invoices at the end with showing like actual materials used, and that worked where it should have never worked. Think about that. That should have never worked because you could have took that from any job. But it's just documentation, so they paid for it. And so with the C bucket, with that scenario, that would go right into my C bucket. Well, I'll tell you what, boss, I think we're going to take this much. And here's my documentation, my reasoning to show why I have 15% waste or 18 or 22 and ridge and starter, whatever it is, right? Here's my case. And a lot of times they're going to say, okay, well, we're not going to give you this, but we'll up the waste. Or we won't give you this much waste, but we'll give you this, right? Take as much as you can get. Don't agree to it. Don't agree to it, right? But I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to do it your way. All right? I'm going to try to carry it out your way. I think it's going to take more. I'm willing to try to do it with just the amount that you're talking about, as long as you're willing to revisit this if it actually takes more. Duh. Like, that's the easiest way out of this whole freaking scenario here. This controversy. This is like one of the most frequently asked questions I've gotten on YouTube, Facebook, in these events, online training course. What about the ridge and the starter? The ridge and the starter. Screw the damn ridge and starter, dude. You know what I mean? I'm so tired of hearing about the ridge and starter. It's so easy because you just give them your best case, all right? And if they don't approve it, you bucket C. I'm willing to try it your way as long as you're willing to revisit it when we're done. Overhead and profit can be put right into the C bucket. How do you put overhead and profit in the C bucket? Let's talk about it. Overhead and profit, right? So I come from the old school where when I got started out, it was 3 trades or more, overhead and profit, approved. Real simple. Roof, drywall, gutters. Roof, gutters, fence, overhead and profit, right? Very simple. Very black and white, right? When do you cross the threshold where the overhead and profit kicks in, And that was very simple. It was 3 trades. But guess what? That was never a law. That was never a law. That was just a rule. Where was it written? It was an unwritten rule. So it was just a standard that was followed by all insurance companies. Now, have there been rulings and lawsuits based on this? Sure, okay? But that's not what I'm talking about. There's no law that said, or isn't today, that says that insurance company has to pay overhead and profit. I've been asked this all the time. Where's the law that says that? There is no law. They don't. There's no law that says that they have to pay overhead and profit.
Texas had a law.
Nope. Doesn't exist, brother. Nope. There's Xactimate white paper. There's rulings in cases that have set precedents, right? Because the idea is that, and I've heard this, I don't dispute it, I agree with it, is that every policy includes overhead and profit, right? Even on single trades, okay? I agree with that. But I'm not going to use litigation. I'm not a PA. I'm not using policy coverage, okay? So I'm never going to rely on that stuff to try to make my case. But we know now that it's no longer the 3-trade rule. They have moved that unwritten rule over to a new unwritten rule, which is that it must reach the level of complexity and or coordination required of a general contractor to carry out the project. What is the rule? What did you say? Well, it must reach the level of complexity and or coordination, right? Same thing verbatim. Oh, well, what's that? But I got 7 trades here. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not complex enough, right? So, where's that line? Where's that threshold that we cross when it kicks in? It just doesn't exist. It's so subjective, right? So do you see what they've done here? Started by State Farm, they moved that unwritten rule, and everybody else just followed right along. The new one now is that Liberty Mutual, not new now anymore, but Liberty Mutual and Safeco don't want to pay for overhead and profit for any roofing-related items, right? That's bogus too, but they started it, other insurance companies started to follow along, but then backed off. I think that's going to go back out. I hope it does, you know. But I'm just saying, I follow trends. I'm a numbers guy, you know. I like to see these things happen and change over time. It's not always going to be the same. State Farm used to be the best, you know, and now they suck, you know. Like USAA was the best. Now I see them more strict. I think probably, you know, Chubb is the best always, but MetLife is really awesome. If you get a MetLife claim, take it to town. You know what I mean? So, but I just think that with overhead and so where's the line? Where's the threshold? Okay? It doesn't exist. Where do you prove that you crossed it? And so I'm not going to say, man, the policy includes overhead and profit, because that's out of bounds. That's not my lane, right? Or there's a ruling in the case, or the Xactimate white paper. They don't give a crap about the Xactimate white paper, guys. I'm just telling you they don't. You got to put a better opening statement. I got a great opening statement. Wish it worked every time, but it just doesn't, you know. So they say, well, we're not.
Is more of an adjuster thing?
No, it's Xactware. Xactware published this bogus white paper of what they think the definition of overhead profit. It was like early 2000s, you know, and people are still passing that junk around. You don't need that junk, it's junk. It might help you to learn more insight about overhead and profit, what it should be, but it's not going to help you in any insurance claim. So I'm not going to work against the grain. Again, back to that. I'm going to embrace their standards, okay? I'm going to make it easy on myself. And so, all right, the job must be complex. All right, I'm going to make it complex. I'm going to prove all the complexity, right? Must require coordination. I'm going to prove that it required coordination, all right? I'm going to go all in on my documentation, just like everything else, to prove that overhead and profit was required. I'm going to try to do that on the front end, on the estimate, before the build, okay? Put my best foot forward, my awesome opening statement to show why I got to do it, why it has to be included, all right? And I might have, hey, by the way, sometimes they'll say, hey, can you send us your subcontractor invoices? Don't resist that. Send it over to them. Just redact the prices. None of their they say, unredact the prices. Give them a choice couple words. You know what I mean? Because it's none of their business. Like, they don't need to see that. Send them the unredacted, or send them the redacted versions. That'll prove the coordination. I say embrace that. A lot of times I'm going to send that to them before they even ask me for it, so that I can prove the coordination, right?
What do you think of sending work orders?
Work orders, everything. I'm actually, and I'm going to get into this a little bit further. Well, I'll do it now. We'll do it now. How do I do it? Like, I'm going to document the crap out of it. Like, anybody in here use AccuLinks? AccuLinks? Okay, AccuLinks is a good program. Like, I actually used it right when they first came out. I was still a contractor, and it was like amazing to me, the concept, you know, of a CRM. Like, we didn't have anything like that before. But there are other programs now too, right? I'm talking about a CRM. What I mean is that your staff and you, all the little activities you do throughout the day should be getting logged, right? So he's talking about work orders. Think about it in terms of this. Every little thing that happens on a job gets logged in a journal entry, literally to the point of, like, what's today? May 20, okay. So August 20th, 2019, 3:42 p.m., Jimmy left the job site to go to ABC to pick up another stick of drip edge. You see what I'm saying? Like, dude, it is complex already, isn't it? Like all the jobs you guys are doing, somebody might tell the story of how your job went and they could get it done in just a few words, right? But you might tell the story and you're telling literally how every day went, how you had to special order it, and so I'm talking about details. It's storytelling, true storytelling, right? And so I'm going to always try to make a big case of it being, and also remember that water spot we talked about earlier today? The water spot that we were just going to kills over? We're not killsing over it, you know what I mean? We're doing the whole thing, like we're doing the whole, and by the way, I believe you could draw a line down the middle of the R and the R and create two separate estimates. One for mitigation and one for reconstruction. I think that's actually what you want to do, like on bigger fire jobs and bigger where people are moving out during the job. I mean, even one estimate for mitigation, one estimate for contents, packing and storing, and one estimate for reconstruction, three separate estimates. And I would submit the mitigation first, bless you, wait for it to be approved, right? Then I would submit the contents, wait for it to be approved, and then I would submit the recon. I would get them piece by piece by piece, right? But I'm just saying, if we want it to be complex, and they don't think it's complex, do I have to, I told you this earlier, you know what? I have a lot of extra items usually in my pocket that don't go in the estimate, like that. Like, did it have to be written like a regular reconstruction estimate? Or should I have really written it, tear out wet drywall bag for disposal category 3? You know what I mean? I could have done it that way, but I chose not to because I want to be reasonable. But if an adjuster or an insurance company is starting to lose all reason with me, and they're telling me that everything in my estimate's wrong, I'm like, you know what? You're right. That is wrong. I'm seeing a lot of mistakes, but I'm also seeing a lot of other mistakes that I made. I think we just need to hit the reset button and go back to square one and start this whole thing over. You see what I mean? So I think that's why it pays to be reasonable, so that we can literally keep things in our pocket to bring back in later if we need to when they're unreasonable. But overhead and profit, okay, just picture all my redacted invoices and literally logs for days of every little thing that happened on that job to prove the coordination and the complexity. So bringing it back to the C bucket, right? We don't pay for that. We don't pay for overhead and profit. Okay, great. Well, I'll tell you what. I think that, this is extremely complex and it's going to require a lot of coordination. And let me explain. Nope, I don't see it. We're not paying for it, right? Okay. All right. Well, I think what I'm hearing you say, right, is that we can basically do all this work all at the same time, right? That none of these trades should overlap each other. And, we could get all hands on deck, all the people there at the same time, knock everything out. And that's why you're thinking that it doesn't need overhead and profit, right? Okay, I'll tell you what. I don't think that's possible. Like I can see here where we're going to have to do this and we're going to have to do that, and we have to come back multiple days. We're going to have to wait for this guy and the gutter guy. Can't work together. Got to work around the client's schedule, blah, blah, blah. I will tell you, quick little timeout, guys. Interior work is almost always a trigger for overhead and profit. Not that they give it to you, but I'm getting it. If that water spot, that's why I want to find the water spot. I need to find the water spot on the inside of that property, okay? So, but like, Mr. Adjuster, I don't think it's possible. I think it's going to take this, and it's going to take that. It's going to be extremely, you can see it's going to be blah, 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 blah. We finance the job. We special order. I mean, all these different things we got to do. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. But I'll tell you what, like, our role, our job, is we were hired to perform all repairs that are prescribed by you, okay? So I'm willing to try to do it your way, all right? As long as you're willing to revisit this issue if that's not possible. But, Mr. Adjuster, I understand that if that comes about, I'm going to have to prove it. I'm going to have to bring you documentation to show you why it was not possible. And that's the logs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to try to make my best case in the beginning. If this doesn't work, I'm going to document like crazy throughout the course of the job. So what I'm doing here is, the C bucket is essentially, we're not losing them, okay? We're going to get them back in later. But now we know. This is why you have to supplement before the build. A lot of people supplement after. Don't do that. Because now we know the items they were willing to approve and the items they weren't. So the ones that they weren't willing to approve right here, provided we didn't give them back to them and throw them away in the A bucket, that group of items, we're going to now put a spotlight on those items during the build to prove it, right? So if it comes down to the flashing, like they couldn't see the hole or whatever, we're going to make sure they see the hole on the build. We know the problems that they don't want to approve. Like, we know the items they don't want to approve. So this should be very easy for us now to document those items, guys. You see what I mean? If we know they don't want to approve overhead and profit, mission overhead and profit time. You know what I mean? Like, so I want like 10 pictures of the guy picking up the flashing, holding it up with the hole in it, you know, putting it back down, like literally like a GIF photo, you know what I mean? And it works, guys. That's all I can say to you. It worked. That's why I'm here. It works. It works. The C bucket works, and it works, and it works, and it works, and it works. It's a repair, right? Oh, sir, it's got to be replacement, right? You got to repair shingles on there. Some guy was just asking me about that, right? You got 3 slopes. Who's that? Who is that? 3 slopes. You got 3 slopes. Well, why not the 4th? Okay, we're going to go and set out to carry out your prescription until we hit a brick wall, all right? And we'll revisit it at that time, okay? You guys getting this? So like, I think, you know, if you put a project manager out the job site, and that person's only job for that build is to simply take photos of only the C bucket items, you're going to get those C bucket items approved, guys. You know what I mean? But you're like, oh, I can't afford a project manager. Because look, don't think you're going to put this on the sales guy. It's not going to happen, right? They're never going to be there during the build to get the right photos. You're going to miss it, all right? And you say, well, I'll just get the roofers to do it. Again, the roofers are there all day, and you're not going to have the photos you need. You can't, not 3 photos, hundreds. If you want it approved, hundreds. Bury them with it. Wear them down, right? Like, every job is a crime scene that must be investigated. Seriously. And when you start thinking about it like that, nobody's going to be more detailed than you, right? And so you say, I can't get the sales rep to do it, can't get the roofers to do it, can't hire a project manager to do it. Hire a freaking photographer for a half day. They'll probably take better photos. They'll probably have the right camera already. You know what I mean?
If they need to.
Book a photographer for a day like you would a wedding.
Well, you could get them.
It's worth more to you. You know what I mean?
You probably get the project manager, you know, log in their time and then charge that to the insurance as well.
Yeah, you could, but I mean, I'm trying to get overhead and profit and other things too, so it's subjective, right? So, but ultimately, you know, I am collecting hardcore documentation, the photos, the building codes, right? I'm putting all that into a very well-written estimate that has all of the sources of information in it, right? Like all the codes, the photos, all of that, and I'm putting my best foot forward. Going through this process will for sure ensure that my estimate starts at a much higher place than anyone else. I know that. You can say that your PA system works better than me or your appraisal, but not unless they're going there and actually doing a freaking inspection. Again, I get most of my money earned when I show up. So unless somebody's doing a better inspection than me, they're not getting more money, okay? Oh, Chad, I see what you're doing. You're just throwing as much as you can at the wall, hoping for it to stick. Maybe, but if I am doing that, it's extremely calculated, right? It's extremely calculated. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it, but I'm putting my best estimate forward, and then I'm playing the A bucket, B bucket, C bucket game from there. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm crystal clear on the C bucket with items that are damaged. But when you're talking about O&P, what specifically are you taking photos of or how are you going to put that together and present it to them other than coordination, this day, this crew, this day?
That's basically it. What else? Showing multiple different tradesmen
Making it look like a pain in the
at
ass.
different times. Yeah, absolutely. Because isn't every job a pain?
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, are you pulling out generators, taking pictures
Yes,
of generators,
yes,
power,
yes.
carving of plants and everything?
The answer to every one of your questions you're going to ask me is yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. And you guys can think of 50 more things. But because once you grasp the concept of, I just have to prove it with documentation. No matter what it is, it's documentation, man. And that's mostly going to work because they're so lazy. You know, they make it easy for them. Do their job for them. Right? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Allstate does not pay O&P, at least they don't pay it to me.
He's like, they don't pay it to me anyway.
And when I talk to them, similar to what you said, but I wrote that statement down, what they're saying is, well, we understand, the difference of blah, 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 but we only pay it if, like, maybe a tree fell on the house. I mean, I get that from about 3 different adjusters in the last couple months.
Field adjusters?
No, the desk adjusters.
The desk adjusters
I
do?
supplement pretty hard. Yes, and I do it. I used to do it before, now I do it after. But I do see your advantage of doing it before.
Yeah. Well, that's a big
I got a lot
one.
of roofs, so sometimes I can't
So-
just sit down and start.
I understand. I believe me, I understand. I've had hundreds of contractors come to me through the years. And so I've got a chance to really see that, man, we're all screwed up. You know what I mean? Listen, I think nowadays, if you try to supplement after the build, you're just going to have to take whatever they're going to give you. You know? Because they're always going to go back to...
Documentation. Yeah.
And I know you're getting more money, right? You're getting more money.
Yeah, because my guy, our on-site supervisor, he would take any picture I ask him to take. So
Sure.
I don't have to rush out to every job.
Sure.
Because I'm jumping on roofs all the time.
Yeah.
So on this O&P though with Allstate, have you run into that?
Oh, yeah, many
Okay,
times.
so
Hundreds of
Allstate,
times.
they won't even pay on anything. I don't care what you talk to them about. They always throw this tree thing out.
Yeah, they almost always pay for overhead and profit for me, but almost never in the beginning.
Okay.
You got to fight for it. You know what I mean? You got to go through the process. You got to go through the steps.
Yeah, okay, I
But-
can understand this process.
Yeah, but you can't do it after the build. That's just never going to work. I mean, it might work occasionally with a nice adjuster, but they have what they need to shut you down because they're like, well, you didn't approach us before, so we could just shut you down based on that. And so if we do give it to you, it's just a courtesy because we're nice. That's rare. You know what I mean? So I just think,
I don't remember. Years ago, Allstate probably gave it to me.
Try to get all of this via these conversations that you're having. Try to do these via email if you can, for obvious reasons, right? So you can go back and say, oh, remember, I told you I was going to try to do it your way. Well, guess what? I went out and I tried to do it your way, and it didn't work, okay? Now, if you want to get extreme with this, dude, you can actually, so like if we have a, excuse me, guys, if we have a deck, right, that needs to be rebuilt or needs to be replaced, and you're trying to get that on the front end, but they're like, nope, not doing it. Okay, well, we're going to try to do it your way, right? We don't agree to anything. We're going to try to do it your way. We're willing to try to do it your way as long as you're willing to revisit it when it's no longer hypothetical, right? I will literally go out there and like stop the press. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to stop, we're going to shut it down, and like start blowing up the insurance company. Like start calling back to back, email, call, supervisor, to go acting crazy. Oh my God, we got an emergency. Call the agent, call everybody. We got an emergency, right? We're stuck in the middle of this job. What should we do? Oh my God, we're stuck. You see what I mean? They're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. And so and if they didn't do it or they didn't respond, move forward. And then you're on the record. You tried everything. You were proactive. You screamed bloody murder. You know what I mean? Like you gave them the option. You first, sorry. Sorry, he just raised his hand, then you.
No, go ahead.
You ready?
So based on your initial assessment, do you then prep the customer, hey, this is going to be a Chinese fire drill? Because they're going to stop, and we're going to have to stop work, and we're going to,
Yeah.
because that would make,
That's not
experience.
that's not a typical thing I would do all the time. I'm talking about that's an extreme. that's an extreme to where you knew for sure it had to be replaced. You know what I mean? Now, but yes, you asked the best question. You asked the best question because what about the client, right? And that's why, guys, that's why another thing, I don't like the idea of taking 6 months to get something done, you know? Like taking it through appraisal and all these things. Because what do you tell the client then? You know what I mean? What do you tell them then? They got to go through all that nonsense. So I do think that it's best to be thinking about the client, number one, right? So maybe it's a plan that you guys come to together. But ultimately, I think it's all about educating the client, which we're moving into now, actually, good segue for that. The sales presentation, meeting with the client, right? I think it's about educating the client and letting them know about what's expected in a process like this and ask them, what do you think we should do? You know what I mean? Like, here's our options. I think we should probably do this, but I want to be on board with you, and let's be on the same team with our strategy. So Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones, what do you think we should do? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think that, but to ease your concern, I'm not an advocate of all the time going out and creating emergencies. You know what I mean? I would try to get it done other ways. I'm not a big fan of chaos, you know. But if you got to create a little chaos to get their attention, you might have to do it. I'm trying to go over as many tricks as I can. I mean, hey, I had the Allstate deal where I was talking with the desk adjuster, and she approved a lot of my estimate, you know, and approved the overhead and profit. And then, before they made payment, like already sent me a copy of it and everything, she said that their supervisor, like she can't pay the overhead and profit. Their supervisor kicked it back down or whatever, right? And so I played a little bit of poker with them. And I'm just like, look, I've done this many times, but if you do this is another extreme thing. You want to get the cooperation of the client, okay? Which is, look, I've done all I can. My contract, Mr. Insurance Adjuster, is not with you. It's with the property owner, okay? I've been including you as a courtesy. But honestly, none of this is any of your business, if you want to know the truth, right? But I know you're paying for it, so I've been giving you courtesy of including you in the discussions, but I've done all I can. I've been proactive. I contacted you before the build. I took this off. I've been reasonable. I did this. I did that, right? And you still don't want to pay for it, like the overhead and profit or whatever it is. You still don't want to pay for it. So I'll tell you what, you know, like I have no other choice but to file a lien against my own client's property. Again, you want to cover that with the client, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you wouldn't believe, so that particular Allstate, that's why I told that Allstate lady. And I said, and another one I like to say too is, you know, it's not me, it's my boss, you know? Usually my boss is the contractor, you know what I mean? Like, so I could say that, but my boss, it's not me, but my boss is not going to accept this, you know? Like, and it was in Texas. And furthermore, they're considering whether or not to report this to the Texas Department of Insurance because he already agreed to it, but it's not me. I'm out of it. You know, it's between you guys. You know what I mean? Like, let me get out of the way and let you guys hash it out. You know, I also like to say a lot of times, one of my phrases I say, look, I can see that this thing is going haywire, right? Just from my unique perspective as the contractor. And I can see that you guys all have disagreements, and like, just to give you a heads up, you're going to have a real problem out of this client, you know what I mean, or out of this policyholder. Like, just to let you know, don't take it from me, but you're going to have a big problem out of this client. But I'll tell you, I don't see it as being that hard. We're only off on these couple of things here, and I just want to see, is there anything that I could do to help to keep the train from going off the track? Let me help. I like to be the good guy. You know, let me be the one with the solutions, not the one that's causing you the stress, right? So, but with that lady, I said that, and she was mad. I was mad, and I just got off the phone, didn't call her back, didn't do anything else. Next day, she called me up and said, talk to the supervisor, we're going to pay the overhead and profit. And I've had a lot of success, probably 70 or 80% of the 20 times that I probably use that total, right? It's usually pretty favorable. Because think about it, if you were to say that if you're that adjuster and somebody said that to you, okay, you may say, screw him, I don't care. But you care, okay? Because if the client does call the adjuster supervisor and says, you guys caused a lien to be filed against my house, and that's what they're thinking. They're thinking about, they don't care about the client, but they don't want to hear it from their supervisor. They don't want to hear it from the higher ups, okay? So if I was the adjuster that heard that, and I think if a lot of you were too, I would simply walk into my boss's office, okay, or call him, whatever that structure is, and let the supervisor know, hey, just to let you know, I just got off the phone with this crazy idiot, you know what I mean? So he's going to file a lien and everything, you know. He's crazy, he's wrong, we're right. I told him he's wrong and we're right, but he's going to file a lien. Supervisor then says, why? What are they filing a lien for? You know what I mean? What's their problem? Well, I wouldn't give them the overhead and profit. Well, what's the job? Why wouldn't you give them the overhead and profit? You see what I mean? Now all of a sudden they're talking about the job. The supervisor has a lot more authority than the adjuster. And it's like, well, just give them the freaking overhead and profit. You know what I mean? They want to close claims. They want to close claims. They don't want to, and by the way, a claim is never closed until all the work has been done and been paid for. Okay, so you hear that you submit an estimate, a supplement, and they're like, oh, claim's already been closed. You open it back up again. You know, we can open it back up as many times as we need to, you know. But I hope that answers some of your questions.